In a previous video, I was talking about the ANSI color codes and how terminals such as Minicom didn't actually support the color codes correctly. So when I use my single board computer and I run it through a terminal on my actual laptop computer, I wasn't getting the color code. So if I start my emulator here and just if I just start emulating my Nomad computer. So these colors that you see on the screen here, in my previous video I was saying how they weren't being supported, but I've got another issue with these terminals. And so if I press F1, so on my Nomad computer, if I went into my monitor and there's a program I've got a 0080, just like a quick demonstration program. If I press G to go, and you can see this is the character set being displayed from my Nomad 80 onto what here is the Raspberry Pi default terminal, which is LX term, I think, LX terminal, something like that, and it displays the ASCII characters up to 127 correctly in the lower half of the character set, but anything above 127 up to 255, it doesn't display those properly. It just displays like an invalid character. So it doesn't support code pages, which is something that there was a concept of code pages before Unicode character sets, where you only had 255 characters to play with, and so to get international characters, they used to have an encoding in the top half of the character set, which you could switch between depending on which country you're in. So this is a manual from an Epson PC from mid-90s, from when they gave decent manuals with computers. Look at the thickness in that, and it's a MS-DOS manual. But in the back, it's got like some appendixes, and so here you can see the character sets for code pages. So this is code page 850, which is one I'm using. And you can see that it's ASCII in the bottom half, but then on the other side of the page, it goes to the top half of the character set, and it shows the blocky characters and everything, the ones which I really want to use with my my computer. So if I come back out of this. And so instead of using LX terminal, if I go into, what I've installed on this Raspberry Pi, which is the default terminal in Ubuntu. If I go Alt F2, is GNOME terminal. So if I just start it like that, so if you wanted to install this on a Raspberry Pi, just type apt get install gnome-terminal, and so this is, like I say, what you get on Ubuntu as standard. So in edit and then preferences, in this compatibility tab, there's this encoding option. At the minute it's set to Western, or I've set it to Western IBM 850, and that gives me encodings for the upper characters in the ASCII set. So if I run my software from here, I just have to find the directory where my source code is running from. So here's the exact same thing, but now rather than running LX terminal, which is the default terminal on the Raspberry Pi, it's running the GNOME terminal, but with the character set being configured in the preferences for the IBM 850 character set. And if I press F1 to go into my monitor and again run the demo program at 0080 hex, and so now you can see in the upper character set, so below the 128 is still the ASCII character set as it was in the previous one, but above you get these character encodings, and this is good for a number of reasons. So when I run my ZX81 emulation, I can use these graphics characters to approximate the graphics which the ZX81 is using. This is the primary reason I wanted to do this. So I'll actually go into my ZX81 emulator and I'll show you why I wanted to do that. But there's other advantages as well. So you've got things like registered trademark characters, copyright characters. You get currency characters like yen, and also somewhere in here there's a pound sign as well, which is really handy for doing ZX81 emulation because it has a pound sign character on the keyboard. So if I just hit any key, if I go to address 100 and then go, and then it takes me back to the menu, and I can go into the ZX81 emulation on here, and if I print the character set, if I get it right, A equals 02255. And then when it prints, you can see I've included in the character set here some of the graphics characters from the terminal emulation. But that also, if I just modify this program slightly, when I come to actually use the plot command, so I'll just change this to go from, rather than up to 255, just to 63, because that's how many plot positions there are across the display. And then rather on 20, rather than do a print, I'll do a plot a comma, and then I'd do a sine wave, sine, so A divided by 10, and then multiplied by 20, and then plus 20. And now if I run it, I should plot up a sine wave, and that gets a better representation than I was getting with just the ASCII characters. So I can do, like, this represents what would be a block in the top left corner of the character, and this is like a block in the top right hand character of the corner of the right hand corner of the character, and bottom left hand character. And but overall, I mean, ZX81 graphics were never that great, but at least in terminal emulation it gives me like a representation. So hopefully if I can load up some games, they might look reasonable on the terminal, until at least I get to my phase 3 of my project, where I add an actual CRT graphics ability on my actual Z80 computer.